Yes. Well, lawfare. The lawfare continues. What have you got to come up with? What's the media version of lawfare, where the media wages jihad against you because you're not a bootlick for the Democrat Party? What should we call that? It's live fare. We have lawfare over here, live fare over there, the news media, the big lie. Rudy Giuliani, the great Rudy Giuliani, the U.S. attorney that took down the mafia in New York, famously, became mayor of New York City, was America's mayor. The attacks of September 11th, 2001 on the World Trade Center in New York, and Rudy Giuliani out there. Rudy Giuliani was acting as an attorney for President Trump and challenged some election results, and he was sued by the lawfare fanatics, and the reporting out of this is completely insane. ABC fake news from Friday evening. Giuliani turns over Mercedes, watches to Georgia poll workers he defamed. That's the crooked headline from the crooked people at ABC News. A federal jury ordered Giuliani to pay $148 million. Now, Rudy Giuliani, of course, doesn't have $148 million, but this is what lawfare is all about, right? Now, the headlines from today: Rudy Giuliani fighting to keep his refrigerator in lawsuit, and the Democrats laugh at this. They should all be targeted with what they think is funny. And Manderson Pooper is in the headline over at Raw Story, the CNN fake. He's worth $148 million. You could sue him for $148 million, and he'd still be just fine because family wealth, But never mind that. The headline there at Raw Story, he's arguing over a refrigerator. Manderson Pooper slams Giuliani's pathetic fight. It's pathetic that he's fighting to keep his refrigerator. Otherwise, his refrigerator will be turned over to two obese women in Georgia who won a lawsuit, and Rudy Giuliani allegedly defamed them by questioning the vote count in Georgia. And Rudy Giuliani, who doesn't have $148 million, ordered to pay $148 million. And ABC fake news is on the case. Giuliani turns over Mercedes, watches to Georgia poll workers he defamed. I think you need to appeal this. A federal jury ordered Giuliani to pay $148 million to two women who were poll workers. After months of legal wrangling, Rudy Giuliani on Friday turned over his luxury sports car, several watches, a ring, and financial assets as two Georgia election workers he defamed in the aftermath of the 2020 presidential election, his lawyers wrote Friday. A federal jury ordered Rudy Giuliani last year to pay Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss nearly $150 million for defaming them. Well, they must have been in line to make a lot of money, and this defamation must have cost them a lot of money out of their pockets. How were they going to be making that $150 million that had to be offset? For defaming them with false accusations that the mother and daughter committed election fraud while the two were counting ballots in Georgia's Fulton County on Election Day in 2020. The attorneys for both sides waged a back and forth in the court for months over delivery of those assets, and last week, attorneys representing Freeman and Moss said Giuliani's apartment was virtually empty when their receivership entered the property. They literally stole his New York apartment, which is a co-op. And as a co-op, it's like a condo, but you own shares in the building. And Rudy Giuliani was forced to turn over his shares in his co-op, his home. He turned over his home where he lived to these two women because they were allegedly defamed. Now, the poll workers' representatives accused Giuliani of secreting away his property. The former New York City mayor was given a November 14th deadline to turn over the shares in his Upper East Side co-op apartment where he lives, or lived, past tense. Now his home belongs to two women in Georgia. Valuable sports memorabilia, a blue Mercedes-Benz convertible that once belonged to Lauren Bacall, the movie star, you know, Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, and luxury watches, including one that belonged to Giuliani's grandfather. His grandfather's watch, family heirlooms, are being turned over to these two women in Georgia. And his apartment. He doesn't have any place to live. He doesn't have a car. His entire life's work is being handed over to two women in Georgia. $148 million that he doesn't have. So they're coming. Honestly, is somebody going to show up and shoot him in his driveway? Because the Democrats, just amazing. Joseph Camerata, Giuliani's attorney, said in a 4-page letter to U.S. Judge Louis Lyman that the watches and ring were delivered via FedEx to an address in Atlanta on Friday morning. The Mercedes-Benz automobile was delivered as requested. Lauren Bacall's old convertible Mercedes. And Rudy Giuliani had it. But this is what the Democrats are doing to America's mayor, to Rudy Giuliani.
Now, whether you dislike or you like Donald Trump, let me give you a warning. They're going to come for you. When the political winds shift, as they always do, let us pray that Republicans are more honest, more trustworthy, and more American than these people in charge of this government. Because if our government is conducted this way, and the system of justice is politicized and criminalized for politics, your rights are in jeopardy and your children's.
The left is coming for your rights. Rudy Giuliani, about a year ago, when the court ruled against him and said he's got to hand over his grandfather's watch, Lauren Bacall's convertible Mercedes-Benz, his co-op apartment in New York City. You have no place to live, nothing to drive, and you don't know what time it is. They want to take everything. And they're coming for his refrigerator. And Manderson Pooper, who is a billionaire born to the manor, he is mocking and ridiculing Rudolph Giuliani, America's mayor, who collapsed the Italian mafia in New York City. And they mock him and ridicule him at CNN. Honestly, we were just talking about MSNBC being for sale. CNN should be sold and turned into a house of ill repute, which is what it is. Just amazing. So this is what they've done to Rudy Giuliani. Man. The refrigerator, they're coming for the refrigerator. We get the refrigerator. We get your apartment. We get your classic convertible Mercedes-Benz that used to belong to Lauren Bacall. We get your watches. But this one was my grandfather's watch. We get it. They do it without guns, but they do it because the state has all the guns. That's just amazing. Man, oh, man. They want the refrigerator. A lengthy note, the list of items they deemed exempt. They want these things to be exempted from the left, gathering everything up and stealing it, including some jewelry of lower value, a refrigerator, a radio receiver, and other household furniture. Wow. He also said a Joe DiMaggio jersey, New York Yankees jersey, was part of the overbroad turnover list that he will fight to keep. They want his Joe DiMaggio jersey and his refrigerator and his grandfather's watch. These people are like armed robbers. Wow. Rudy Giuliani. You know why nobody wants to get involved in politics? Say no more. Attorneys also argue that the court should never have been allowed to turn over the Mercedes-Benz, arguing that the car should be appraised and returned to Giuliani if the value does not exceed $5,500. I think it might exceed 5,005 belong to Lauren Bacall. But there you go. Isn't that amazing? This is what the Democrats are doing to America and to politics in America, and they'll scream in your face about it all day long, like the crazy people that they are. They should. And I was thinking about their self-immolating. Today is the anniversary of the Democrat celebration in Guyana, South America. A long, long time ago, was it 46 years ago, I think, the Jonestown mass suicide. The Jonestown mass suicide. The anniversary is today of the Jonestown mass suicide, where Democrats seeking a socialist utopia fled San Francisco and Oakland under the leadership of a fake reverend by the name of Jim Jones, and they founded what they called Jonestown in Guyana, and it was on this date in 1978, November 18th of 1978, that the People's Temple founder, Jim Jones, led hundreds of his followers into a mass murder-suicide at their agricultural commune in a remote part of the South American nation of Guyana. Many of Jim Jones' followers willingly ingested a poison-laced punch. They keep calling it Kool-Aid. It was actually generic store-brand Kool-Aid and not Kool-Aid brand Kool-Aid. Just saying, on behalf of the Kool-Aid people, but they all drank the poison, and they had come from San Francisco and Oakland. Almost everybody was African-American, not Jim Jones, but almost all of the followers were African-American, and 909 people committed suicide. Some were apparently murdered, including the children and all that stuff, but they're fine with that because it was a socialist utopia. Jonestown was going to be a socialist utopia, and they couldn't achieve full socialist utopian status in Oakland and San Francisco, so they moved to Guyana, set up a thing there, and then you may or may not remember, or you may or may not be aware that it was a Democrat congressman from their district there in Northern California that decided he wanted to go down and visit Leo Ryan, wanted to go down and visit, see what was going on there, because a lot of people from the area had been made to disappear. So Leo Ryan went down there, the congressman, and he was attacked by a gang of the Jonestownites came in on vehicles and attacked him with machine guns. And man, oh man, and there were journalists there with NBC News. I used to know one of the guys that was there, Steve Sung. He was a cameraman, Chinese, Vietnamese cameraman working for NBC News at the time. And he went down there with me. He got shot through the arm, my friend Steve Sung, longtime network news cameraman. But, yeah, relatives back in California said, hey, these nuts have taken away our family members. And that's not good. So Congressman Leo Ryan, Democrat from California, said, I'm going to go down there on a congressional junket, a congressional delegation. We're going to go see what happened. They got down there, and the congressman was murdered, and a lot of the other people in his group were murdered because the Jonestown people, they were left-wing socialist utopianists from California, and they tried to kill everybody, and then they all killed themselves and each other. That was pretty wild story. That was a heck of a news story in 1978. Let me tell you that much. Amazing stuff. Socialism. It kills everyone. I still haven't even gotten to President Trump at the UFC on Saturday. Getting to that. You know that the all-new third-generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier is finally here. The third generation. It builds on the incredible success of the previous generation's model, and it's earned thousands of five-star reviews on Al Gore's amazing internet. Immediately became a bestseller. We've got two of them at home ourselves. The new Thunderstorm uses two different technologies that studies have shown help to kill up to 99.9% of bacteria in the air and viruses. It removes dusts and pet dander and smoke, all kinds of nasty stuff from the air, so you can breathe clean, fresh air, and you don't have to buy and replace filters in the Eden Pure Thunderstorm over and over again. They're only this big. You can hold them in your hand just like this. The Thunderstorm will help get rid of any stinky odor, any smell, guaranteed. Odors from trash cans and shoes and left-wing protesters, no match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. Put one in your basement, your teenager's room, your kitchen, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. Just go to EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. Use the discount code CHRIS3, CHRIS, and the number 3 to save $200 on 3 thunderstorms. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is CHRIS3. Yes, sir. Ba-da-da-da-ba-ba. Also, craziness going on vetting Donald Trump's cabinet picks. The FBI has a huge problem. The Washington Times has the story. That's coming up.
Don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
Since today is the anniversary of the Jonestown mass suicide in Guyana, South America, I want to share with you how much like today's Democrat Party they were back in 1978. Wait till you hear this stuff. I think you'll say, wow. I think that's what you'll say. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Tom, calling from Annandale, Virginia. Thomas, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Thanks, Chris. When you first mentioned Trump allowing access to MSNBC recently, my initial reaction was shock and awe. Maybe not awe, but shock. 1% of me just thinks that maybe he's trying to reach the one or two potentially sane Democrats that might listen or watch MSNBC. The other 99% of me is reminded of what the ancient Chinese warriors phrase: when your enemy is destroying itself, don't interrupt them.
Yeah, Sun Tzu. That goes to Sun Tzu, Napoleon. There are variations of that. Yes, when your enemy is destroying himself, do not interfere. And honestly, Tom, I was talking about MSDNC, according to reports last week, being up for sale. And honestly, Kevin Toberweight, and he said, Elon Musk should buy MSNBC and turn it into the opposite of what it is now. And that would be a lot of fun. And President Trump should not allow anybody in his administration to go on MS. Jonestown coming up.
The dehumanizing rhetoric of Adolf Hitler is once again alive and well on a national political stage. This time, of course, in the United States. This time given life by former president and current Republican presidential frontrunner Donald Trump.
That's, of course, Democrat Party apparatchik Jake Tapper, who slaughters 1 million babies a year. Well, not personally, of course. He just stands idly by and cheers it on. That's Jake Tapper. It's Hitler. Hitler is back. We're listening to that now. I was just talking about Jonestown, the massacre, the mass suicide. Democrats are self-immolating in the United States at numbers never before seen. I can cite at least 6 self-immolations since Earth Day 2 years ago at the Supreme Court. Democrats have been self-immolating. A lot of suicide attacks against police by Democrats, too. But the left-wing socialist utopianists in Oakland and San Francisco that moved to Guyana in South America to follow their hero, Jim Jones, the Reverend Jim Jones, kind of like the Reverend Al Sharpton, sort of in the same, they're both reverends, so we got that going. But Jim Jones wanted to create a socialist utopia, and they found that was going to be impossible in San Francisco and in Oakland. So they all relocated, and 909, I believe, committed suicide and or were murdered one day. and they killed a Democrat congressman from California, shot up a network news camera crew and news reporters and stuff. And it was quite a news story 46 years ago today. 46 years ago today in 1978. And it was all about the Democrat utopia thing. But we noticed something interesting, and that was Jake Tapper saying Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler, and he's returned the Adolf Hitlerism to America. Now let's go to Democrat Mayor Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, Illinois, who this is the rhetoric that they spread. The rhetoric that they use is demented and insane and mentally ill. Here is Democrat Mayor Chicago, Brandon Johnson.
The president-elect, former President Trump, his threat is not just towards new arrivals and undocumented families.
New arrivals.
His threats are also against black families.
Black families. That's because, he doesn't. There's no reporter there to say, well, what do you mean, President Trump? Because the economy was great when he was president for 4 years, and we had the lowest black unemployment rate ever and more black wealth than ever before. But never mind that. Brandon Johnson and Jake Tapper, it's Hitler, and it's not just new arrivals, which is his euphemism for illegal alien gang members that murder college students and mothers of five. But pay no attention to that. They're just new arrivals to Brandon Johnson, but also black people and black families. And Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, who was left the congressional seat by her husband in his will, like in a banana republic. And Debbie Dingell, she knows that, the Democrat Party created internment camps in the United States in World War II. Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Harry Truman did. And they threw all the Japanese into, and some Italians and some German, into internment camps. Debbie Dingell says that Donald Trump's going to bring back the Democrat internment camps.
He wants to ban Muslims. He wants to deport Muslims. And he wants to start internment camps.
Internment camps?
Yes. He has talked internment camps. You know what, Jake? You may have to visit me in one.
Yeah, nobody's going to visit you anywhere, Debbie, because nobody likes you. Nobody wants to visit you. And then Kamala Harris was, of course, famously asked by Manderson Pooper, who should be sued for $148 million. Manderson Pooper and Kamala Harris about that whole, name-calling thing.
Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. She doesn't know what the word means, and Manderson Pooper's not going to ask her. But so, wait a minute. We just played Jake Tapper saying he's Hitler, Kamala Harris and Manderson Pooper saying he's a fascist, Democrat Congresswoman who was given her seat by her dead husband, Debbie Dingell, said internment camps. Brandon Johnson said he's a threat to black people. And this reminded us because Jonestown, the anniversary of the mass suicide is today. Jonestown was almost all black people. And Jim Jones, who is a Caucasian left-wing socialist utopianist, he targeted black people in Oakland and San Francisco to join his cult. And there was the Panhandler Broadcasting System made a documentary about Jonestown years ago. And Michael reminded me today that we pulled audio from the old Jonestown documentary many years ago. And Jim Jones, the Reverend Jim Jones, white, convinced his followers, almost all black, to leave San Francisco and Oakland, to leave California in the United States, to go to Guyana in South America. Because why? Well, because he knew what was about to happen in the United States.
In an effort to shore up support among his followers, Jones vilifies the outside world.
Jones had said that a fascist government was going to take over and was going to throw African Americans in prison camps, much like Nazis had done to Jews in the Holocaust.
Wow, that sounds incredibly familiar. So today's Democrat Party is right where the People's Temple was, where Jim Jones and the suicidal death cult of Jonestown, right where they were. That's pretty amazing stuff. What's he going to do? Well, he vilified the outside world, said a fascist regime was coming and African Americans were going to be put into prison camps, much like the Nazi, which would be internment camps. So this is the Debbie Dingell rhetoric, the Jake Tapper rhetoric. This is the Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson rhetoric, and it's Kamala Harris's rhetoric. It's the same rhetoric used by the People's Temple, by Jim Jones, the suicidal death cult of Jonestown, Guyana, in South America in 1978. The very same language, the same words, the same rhetoric. Isn't that remarkable?
A fascist government was going to take over and was going to throw African Americans in prison camps, much like Nazis had done to Jews in the Holocaust.
So the Democrats who are pushing socialism, and Bernie Sanders, who is a socialist, Squad members who are socialist, MSNBC anchor who proudly describes as a socialist, and then they peddle the same stuff that Jim Jones, the Reverend Jim Jones of Jonestown, was peddling to the suicidal death cult before the mass suicide of nearly 1,000 left-wing utopianists.
Liberals amuse me. I am a socialist. I live to the extreme left. Great. The extreme left of you mere liberals. Okay?
There they go. The People's Temple. The Democrat Party is the People's Temple. Man, oh, Manischewitz. Now, get a load of this. The Washington Times has the story with pictures of Tulsi Gabbard, who they accuse of being a Russian asset, Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., who's a lifelong Democrat, and his life is now in grave danger because of the Democrats, Matt Gaetz, member of Congress until days ago, and an attorney, his father, a career politician in Florida. And they all must be destroyed by the left, who are Jonestown. They are the People's Temple. I think the Democrat Party, is there a People's Temple song that we could attach to the Democrat Party? But here's the Washington Times lead story today under the heading Security by the great Kerry Pickett and Jeff Murdoch, because they report real news. And the headline is, Trust Issue Impairs FBI Vetting of Nominees. Trump's targets to check backgrounds. An FBI official at FBI headquarters in Washington is warning that the Bureau's Security Clearance Division is politicized and can't be trusted to screen President Donald Trump's nominees for top administration jobs. The allegations of political bias at the FBI's Security Division, or SEC-D, naturally you have to abbreviate it to SEC-D, were revealed in a protected whistleblower disclosure sent to the House Judiciary Committee, which the Washington Times reviewed. The official said the security clearance process has been, quote, contaminated by the political agendas of Security Division officials and other executives in the FBI, end quote. The process is also subordinate to the same FBI executives Mr. Trump promised to sweep out of the agency, the whistleblower said. FBI SEC-D, Security Division, has been politicized, and both Director Christopher Wray and Deputy Director Paul Abate have the ability to examine the background investigations of anyone who's having a security clearance done, said the disclosure, which was submitted on Saturday. The FBI whistleblower said lawmakers need to know that the Security Division at the FBI conducts background investigations. The office has been accused of weaponizing the process and using it to retaliate against FBI employees with conservative and pro-Trump views. Now, who's the fascist? Honestly, where's the fascist? The merger of state and corporate power, the merger of the Democrat Party and corrupt individuals at the FBI who should literally be in a penitentiary. Just amazing, amazing stuff. Yes, sir. Man, oh, Manischewitz. Now, let me get, because we were talking about this, and there's so much to get to. I want to get to Dr. Marty McCary from the Johns Hopkins University, a medical doctor extraordinaire, unlike Dr. Jill Biden, who's not a doctor at all. But Marty McCary was on, and we played on Friday the attacks on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And look, I was never his biggest fan or anything, but the attacks I cannot sit still with the attacks, which are slanderous. And, look what they're doing to Rudy Giuliani. Hand over your grandfather's watch and your refrigerator and your convertible Mercedes. Unbelievable stuff. That's a vintage car. Dr. Marty Makary, who was on Fox News Sunday yesterday on the Fox News channel, and he's talking about, I played the audio for you of RFK saying, I'm not anti-vax. Get the vax all you want. I just want more information out there on the vaccines and the safety. And it's about, what was it a brilliant caller said earlier today? Were these people that are assailing RFK Jr., were they all against Michelle Obama's nutrition push? And the answer is no, because were it not for double standards, liberals would have no standards at all. Dr. Marty Makary yesterday.
Well, I think if we listen to what he's talking about, he's very clear about what he wants to do. Number one, he wants to address corruption in healthcare and corruption in our government health agencies. A lot of people don't like that message, and they're threatened by it.
They don't like why? Why would, the medical care industry, big pharma, which the left pretends to be against, and big meta, that's, big medical or whatever, they're against it. But now they've got the long knives out and they want to blow up everything that is RFK Jr. He's not safe walking down the street anymore because of Dr. Marty Makary of Johns Hopkins University. And what does RFK really want?
Number two, he wants to get back to evidence-based research, and he wants to fund research that's going to answer the big questions of our day.
What? The big research that funds the big health questions of our day? It's very unscientific of them to reject more research. They don't know how many genders there are. They don't know what a woman is. They don't want more research into health and food, the food supply, and red dye number this and yellow dye number that. Dr. Marty Makary yesterday.
And number three, he wants to address the child chronic disease epidemic. A lot of people are concerned. Food supply is poisoned and kids are growing up in a toxic milieu, and we're drugging kids at scale as the American Academy of Pediatrics is pushing Ozempic in 6-year-olds.
Ozempic in 6-year-olds. And what are the long-term health effects of Ozempic in 6-year-olds? The Democrats want to make sure you don't find out because they're in the back pocket of big pharma and big medicine and, big corporate health care because, Obamacare, they fixed it. No, they bought into a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and they've been corrupted again.
He is talking about health and chronic diseases. It shouldn't be a political message.
Well, it really shouldn't be a health and children and things that we're putting into our body from food to vaccines. Shouldn't we be eager to know as much about those things as possible, Dr. Marty Makary?
I would say people should not dissect what he said 30 years ago and listen to what he's saying now. He's saying very clearly he's not anti-vax. He's not going to remove or take away anyone's vaccines. And what is scary and dangerous to health is not RFK Jr., it's what people just witnessed. It's the food pyramid lie that's been out there for 60 years. It's the medical establishment that lied to us about opioids for 20 years, saying it was not addictive. It was the vaccine mandates, ignoring natural immunity, cloth mask on toddlers. That's what's driving a lot of the distrust in the medical establishment. It's not RFK Jr.
Yeah, and it's honestly the lack of trust in our public institutions, from the FBI doing background checks to the court ordering that Rudy Giuliani hand over his grandfather's watch and Lauren Bacall's Mercedes convertible and his co-op, his apartment in New York, got to hand it all over because 2 women in Georgia. Amazing stuff. Dr. Makary.
If you look at the path that we are on as a country, it's not a good path. We're watching so many of these chronic diseases go up. Early onset Alzheimer's has tripled. Cancer in young people under age 50 has gone up by 79%. We're looking at half of our nation's children are sick. We're looking at 40% of our nation's children now with a mental health diagnosis. 1 in 5 kids is on a medication. So what he is really focused on is this concept that we can't keep drugging our nation's children going down this path. That's what's dangerous.
1 in 5 kids drugged. Half of our kids are sick with some chronic illness. Early onset Alzheimer's has tripled. And did he say the last 12 years, early onset Alzheimer's has tripled in 12 years? 79% this and 40% that. Personally, I think these are things that, as an advanced civilization, we should be looking at and publicly discussing. But the Democrat Party And the left, they're going full Jonestown on us. They just want us to line up over here for the Kool-Aid. Because socialism is just around the corner. Either that or fascism. Internment camps, targeting black people. The Democrat Party is Jonestown, reincarnated for the 21st century, and they've taken over the Democratic Party.
Eroding trust is part of a descent into fascism. That's sort of part of the playbook. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, so Tulsi Gabbard's a Russian asset and Hillary Clinton's not. Is that what I'm supposed to believe? The Speaker of the House is Mike Johnson. He spent Saturday night with President Trump at Madison Square Garden for the ultimate fighting thing. And he was also on the television yesterday on the Fox News channel, where he's talking about the attacks on Matt Gaetz, Congressman Matt Gaetz, nominated by Trump to become Attorney General.
Look, Matt Gaetz is a colleague of mine. We've been serving together for more than 8 years. He's one of the brightest minds in Washington or anywhere for that matter, and he knows everything about how the Department of Justice has been weaponized and misused, and he will be a reformer, and I think that's why the establishment in Washington is so shaken up about this pick.
Since he was targeted by a corrupt Department of Justice and a corrupt FBI, investigated for years and then dropped. But, hey, he's still being investigated over here. They had no witnesses that they would use. They had no evidence. They had none of that. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
The reason that Matt Gaetz is such an exciting pick to so many people is because he will go in and reform the Department of Justice. It desperately needs it.
That's it needs it, but the Democrats will fight against it.
Look, he and I sat on the Judiciary Committee together for almost 7 years before I became Speaker of the House, and we heard the evidence. We saw the evidence of lawfare. We saw how the Department of Justice had been used for political purposes, how they targeted Catholics in some examples, and parents at school boards and pro-life Americans. This is not what our system of justice was built to do, and Matt Gaetz will go in there and shake it up. And I think most of the American people understand that's an important function.
I certainly think it is. My mind keeps going back to Jonestown and how much like the People's Temple and Jim Jones the Democrat Party is today. Just amazing. Oh, no, there's fascism coming. We need a socialist utopia. You're going to put you in internment camps, going to target you based on rape. These are on race. These are all the Democrat Party's talking points today from the People's Temple and Jim Jones.